Hello everyone. This is a lunchtime, it's a vinyasa class, but we're gonna focus a little bit on shoulders. It might be a little slower as vinyasa classes go. Let's see what happens. So because we're gonna focus on the shoulders, we're gonna start with a position that helps the arm bone kind of drop back into the socket. So you'll need a blanket for this, and if you don't have a blanket handy, you can just lay on your back, it'll probably be okay too. But if you do, then the way that you're gonna do this is you're gonna fold the blanket up so that you've got what is basically a long, narrow pillow, okay? So in the regular yoga world, there are pillows specifically designed for this called pranayama bolsters. And if you have one of those, you can certainly use that instead. But otherwise, you're gonna lay this down and we're gonna put the rib cage on this along with the head, and then your low back, you can decide how close it should be to the end of the blanket. I like mine a little bit closer to the ribs than my low back. So you'll lay back over the blanket, and get it centered in the middle of your back, and then decide, like, do you want it to go up a little bit or down a little bit here? And then you can adjust the head support by giving yourself like a little fold in the blanket. What we're looking for is for there to be a sense that the shoulders are sort of opening backward towards the floor, but not so strongly that it pulls a lot on the chest muscles. We're aiming deep in the shoulder, and for that reason, we're kind of allowing this to be not too intense. So let the arms kind of drop into the sockets a little bit more. So the head of the arm bone releases away from these muscles in the front that sustain it there. And the shoulder blades kind of release away from the upper back. So that we've got a little kind of mild sense of a chest expansion here. Now, if you find this helpful, especially at the end of a day, if you have a job where you hold your arms up in front of you a lot, you can do this particular thing, just roll up a blanket, lay down on it for as long as 20 minutes, if it's helpful for unwinding all of this kind of postural habit that we get into around the shoulders. But even a few minutes will make a difference. So we're going to stay for just a couple more minutes. You can tune into your breath. Notice over time that things shift a little and you can make little minor adjustments. Maybe exactly the same. We'll stay for about another minute. Just let your whole body breathe. Take about 2 more breaths. first, you can just set it off to whatever the side is for you, way over there, whatever it is for in your world. Just put it where it's not going to be in your way. How's that? And then once you're back on your back, just notice if there is a sense that your upper back changed, that the shoulders themselves feel a little bit more adjusted backwards, maybe. So instead of leaning forward in the way that they might when you're working, kind of feeling them kind of adjusting back. So we're going to do a little bit of a movement pattern with the shoulders. I'm going to scooch down, so I've got room to extend my arms all the way overhead. Okay? Just want to make sure you've got enough room that your arms will go up all the way. And then we're going to leave the feet in this bridge position. We're going to do a couple of different things here. So we're going to take the arms up to start with, and all we're going to do is just try to pick ourselves up off the floor. Okay? So my head's going to just stay heavy, but I'm going to try to pick my whole upper back up off the floor and then bring it back down. Okay? Lift it up off the floor. Bring it back down, lift it up off the floor, and bring it back down, up off the floor, and bring it back down. We're going to try it one more time to see if we can get that whole upper back to lift, and come on back down. Now, we're going to drop the arms up overhead, grab an elbow, and then we're going to let the arms come back up. When we get to this point, we're going to lift up, try to get that upper back to lift up off the floor. Come on back, and lower the arms overhead. We're going to do it 3 times, so 2 more on this particular position, lifting up, coming back, bringing the arms overhead, and then 1 more time, lifting up, coming back, bringing the arms overhead. Now, grab the opposite elbow. So you've got the opposite arm on top, come back up, lift the upper back off the floor, put it back down, arms overhead, come back, lift the upper back off the floor, put it back down, arms overhead. We got 1 more to go. Lift, back down, arms overhead. Okay, so then we're going to bring the arms all the way back to start. Now, the hips and the arms are going to work together for this one, and this has a name. It's called Dvipadapitham. So we're going to lift the hips and the arms all the way up overhead. The arms are going to stay where they are while you slowly feel your way down 1 vertebrae at a time. And I'm scooping and lifting up onto my heels so that I can get my lumbar spine really slowly, 1 vertebrae at a time if I can, onto the ground. Now, as soon as my sacrum hits the floor, my back kind of goes back to its neutral curve, and that's when I'm going to bring the arms back down. Okay, so we'll do this 4 more times. So hips go up, arms go up, arms stay, and I'm letting myself kind of feel that shoulder massage right there that I can get. And then scoop down 1 vertebrae at a time. Letting the arms stay heavy. And I'm trying to feel as the weight of my body lands on each vertebrae. And I'm not in a hurry. Really feeling each one kind of plant itself down. And then the arms come down. Okay, so when you're there, you go back up. And you guys are just going to do a couple more of these on your own. At whatever pace suits you. But the same rules. Hips up, arms up. The arms stay up. You can kind of rock that massage as long as it feels cool to do so. Roll down. Get to the bottom. Oh. Arms come back down after I rinse out the hamstring cramp. All right, we got 1 more to go. Or at least I do. You might be done. Alrighty. When we're all the way down, and you brought your arms back down, we're going to take a moment and just notice what happened. Notice any feelings for yourself. Like maybe for you that's a good one, maybe that's not as good as some of the other kinds of things we might do. So just notice what happened. Bring your knees into your chest if you like. So we're going to roll the legs over to the right or the left. You can go either way, but just for my purposes, I'm going to say right. And then you do what you want. And then letting the legs kind of fall over. We're gonna reach now out through this shoulder, and we're trying to stretch the pec and this outer hip. So we're going for that stretch, if that's helpful. And you can even drop the leg a little further over to get a little bit more movement in that direction. Now we're going to take the right arm up and let that become a pillow and roll onto the right side. The left arm is going to do this work. The right arm is just going to hang out here, okay? So the left arm we're going to bring up in front of us all the way over the head. When we get to the point where we're about level with the shoulder or the chest, we're going to come straight across the center. Go all the way up and over and come across the center, all the way up and over. And you can make as big a range of motion circle as you like. Just circling it around. We're going to do that twice more. Nice big circle. Come on back. And last one. Nice big circle. Okay, so then we're going to come all the way back onto the back. Bring the knees with. Give yourself a little massage. Oh, now that one I like a lot. Maybe true for you, maybe not true for you. So we're going to let the legs come over to the left, and again we're going to do this little twist with this kind of stretch through the chest, stretch through the side of the hip. And you're deciding how much of that stretch you want to get into. Two more breaths here. And then we're going to go over to the left side. Now I'm going to need to adjust myself just a little bit here so that I've got enough room for my left arm to extend. All right, so with my arm extending out in front of me, I'm going over my head and coming all the way back around. Over my head, stretch through that whole range of motion, and come all the way back around. We're going to do it 3 more times. Ooh, that one I went a little too far. 2 more. And the last one, I'm not trying to drag my body with it, so I'm trying to remain a little bit stable. And then once you're here, we can come all the way up onto the belly here. And back into a child's pose position. Give yourself a little bit of a wobble there. All right, so from this child's pose, you can bring your hips more forward or further back. We're gonna do 3 things. We're gonna do a twist on each side, and then we're gonna do a little puppy dog. I like a little bit wider in the knee and kind of in between, all the way up and all the way back. I usually try to snuggle myself in. Okay, now I'm going to use this top arm to kind of press myself into the shoulder stretch. You may want to wrap the top arm over your back, so that's up to you. So we're stretching a different part of the shoulder than we've hit up to now, but hopefully in the balance it'll be nice. So take one more breath on this side. And before we do the other side, we're just going to pause in the center. And again, just notice how things went. You can add a little movement to the shoulder. See if you can feel a difference between the 2 shoulders and if that difference feels like a good difference to you. And then we'll do our other side. So when you feel like you're there, you could, again, sort of use your arm, and I have to kind of grab the edge of my mat because it's a little slick, but just use it to sort of roll yourself into the twist or roll your arm up over your back. Whichever version of that you like better. I'm letting my head stay pretty relaxed here. take a big breath. And then we're gonna come on out of here. Oh. Again, it might be nice to go back to child's pose, or you can kind of come more towards an all fours position. So with the puppy dog, I'm gonna use 2 blocks because I like the way that stretches me a little bit better. But you can do this without the blocks. It just gives me a little bit of height so that I get a little bit bigger tricep stretch. So what I've done is I've positioned 2 blocks so that I can put my elbows on them and be about shoulder distance apart. And there's room in here for my forehead. So whatever version that works best for you. And the puppy dog is meant to be a little bit like a downward facing dog. So less like a child's pose and more like the hips are kind of over the knees. But you'll feel it out. You might need to go back a little bit or forward a little bit to find just right. And so we're gonna let ourselves kind of place the elbows on the floor and then try to, from the elbows up to the hips, create a sense of a downward dog. Now I'm gonna bend at my elbow because that pulls my triceps more into the stretch. And I need to bring my knees back a little so I get a better sense of this downward dog shape, okay? Now I'm not trying to drop my chest to the floor. I'm actually gonna keep a little bit of my chest collected, a little bit of core support there. I want this to land in my upper back and the backs of my arms. So if I let my ribs sag, it lands in my low back. So I'm keeping a little bit of structure there with my abs and really trying to let this land up in my shoulders. We're gonna do a couple more breaths. All right, so take one more big inhale. And the way that I get out of this is I kind of push the weight forward, so I kind of roll back onto my forearms, and then I can come all the way out of the puppy dog and do some little back moves just to see, like, where did it really land? And it felt like it was in my upper back. Is that where I'm now feeling some freedom of movement? And for me, the answer is yeah, I do. Feels pretty good. But notice if it's true for you, because it took me a while to figure that pose out. Before I really got it, that wasn't just a weird child's pose. So in any case, at this point we're going to go into downward dog. Before I do that, I'm going to tame the wild masses that grow out of my scalp, and then I will join you in downward dog. Oh. You might need a drink of water or something like that. You can take this little break for that too. All right, now if downward dog is not your jam, for whatever reason you can't do a downward dog, you can stick with an all fours position. You will be okay. So we're gonna take the hips up and give ourselves a moment to really reach back and then reconnect the shoulders into this pose. So it feels like I'm trying to sort of connect my shoulder blades onto my back, connect my arm bones into my shoulders, and then I'm pulling and doing most of the work from my core. Oh, and it might be nice to walk up and down a bit here. Oh. All right, so we're gonna wander our feet up to our hands, or our hands back to our feet, whichever one of those sounds like a plan to you. Once you're here, give everything a bit of a shake in the upper body. Just kind of, get almost like a pulsation going through your arm. Okay, and so then we're gonna do a few of these. Roll up, kind of feel yourself, draw your back almost into a little cobra shape, and then fold back over your legs. See if they'll go straighter. Come up to that cobra shape, fold over your legs, and then we're gonna come back to that little cobra shape and come all the way up to standing. Give yourself a nice big stretch. Oh. All right. So coming to what you feel like is the top of your mat, we're going to pause in just a moment, for just a moment rather, in a mountain pose. So if you need to do a little wardrobe adjustment so that you're able to breathe, feel like you're covered, you can do that. Then we're going to shift all the weight into the right leg. So first just find the weight evenly distributed on both feet. And then we're going to shift the weight into the right leg. We're going to pick the knee up. And we're going to try to shoot this leg back into a warrior 3. So we're going to see, whoop, things might go awry. So if they do, you just start over. We're gonna see if we can extend that leg all the way back. And I find it challenging on some days, especially today. I'm feeling very wobbly. So it's very challenging for me to hold a balance. Good, so we're gonna take 2 more breaths if we can. And again, you fall, you come back. That's the way this works, okay? And then we're gonna step that leg back. And we're gonna try to find this warrior 1 shape. So my rib cage turns to the front, my foot's all the way on the ground as tight as I can turn it in and still get the heel on the floor. Wherever that lands you, because everybody's range of motion is a little different. Let your hips go with your legs, turn your ribs towards the front, and then we're gonna let this thing stretch out over this front leg. Now if your spacing isn't big enough, you can adjust your spacing, and then we're gonna roll ourselves up almost like we did with that bridge. Maybe I'll do that with my eyes open next time. But like try to get 1 vertebrae at a time to come back up. So arms up, warrior 1, feel yourself kind of stretch the feet away from each other. Reach into that, come into a bowing warrior. And then we're gonna roll this warrior up 1 vertebrae at a time, start at the pelvis, and then feel those little vertebrae stack. And some of them are units, right? So they don't work independently. We'll try to get them as independent as possible. Nice big breath. Stretch out, come to that bowing warrior. And then we're gonna roll up 1 more time. And now, if you like, you can lace your fingers together behind your back for a shoulder opener. Since my shoulders are a little bit tight, I'm gonna employ a yoga strap, but you could use a towel or a scarf or whatever you got handy. Okay, so I'm gonna put that behind my back. I'm gonna straighten out my front leg, and if I can, bring all my toes around a little bit more, and then fold over this front leg. Now it's straight, so I'm getting a hamstring stretch. You want less of that, bend it. And I'm just seeing how big, without falling on my face, I can bring my arms up and over. Breathe. Last breath here. And then we're going to release. And you can bring yourself back to a forward bend or come up first and bring yourself back to mountain pose. Okay? And then if you went for the forward bend, just come up halfway and then all the way to standing, and we'll join up together. Now in this mountain pose, can you feel the difference between the side we've done and the side we haven't done? I know I can. So again, I'm going to try to find a balance even though I feel very off-center today, and because of that pose sequence. And I'm going to take my weight into my left leg and pick my right leg up and trust that I'll catch myself if I fall, okay? Then we're going to take that leg back and try to find a warrior 3. Go crazy. I'm trying to get my hips level, and that's harder. Last breath. And then we're going to step ourselves back and find our warrior 1. Again, let your hips go with your legs. So the legs turn as much as they're willing. And then I can add that little extra with my ribs. Just be mindful of not trying to drag your hip forward. For most of us, that causes trouble. So nice big present, you know, that warrior 1 shape, just get into it. And then we're going to stretch it out and roll it up. And stretch it back into that warrior 1. Take a bowing warrior. And roll it up. One more time with that movement pattern. Oh, it's always good to make your warrior a little humble. And whether that was successful or not, we did it, y'all. So we're going to turn the legs. I'm going to add that strap back in between my hands. I'm just going to organize my hands a little differently, so it's a little different on the other side. And then I'm gonna fold and try to find this hamstring stretch and the shoulder to the degree that I can and that feels appropriate. And breathe. And get present for whatever it is. Whatever it is, yogis, we're here. Last breath. We're going to release the arms. And again, you can step up here into a forward bend, or you can come all the way up first and step into a mountain. And I don't know that there's much of a difference except you add a couple poses. And then just find that mountain pose again. I'm going to turn toward you guys. Can you allow your body to find the shape it had lying down on the floor, standing up? There's a lot more work involved with standing up, but can we find that sense of the shoulders relaxing and the body stable while we're still standing? We'll do one more pose before we end here. We'll take the legs out in a nice wide stance. Take a nice big stretch. And then let's fold into a wide angle forward bend. And yours can be very still, or you can sort of meander around a little bit. Now the question you have to ask yourself is, do I need to go get myself some lunch and be done with my practice? Or am I going to turn this into downward dog and then into shavasana? Because you could do that. You're at your house, you get to decide what to do. But for those of us that have to go off and get some lunch, let's take a big old breath together. So when you're ready, come together back in that mountain pose, or you're going down into shavasana. You'll just do it. Say goodbye there. Nice big breath. Big deep sigh. Namaste, yogis. I really appreciate you joining me for a little lunch break today. Have a great rest of your week and your day.